This video will obviously contain spoilers about the ending of the Halo Infinite campaign and also some audio logs that you can collect throughout the storyline as well. I'd probably suggest to finish the campaign before watching this video, but you have been warned. I just thought I'd put it out there. But hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. A couple of hours ago, I finished the Halo Infinite campaign for the very first time, and I've got to say, I loved every single second of it. However, it was quite a mismatch of emotions, and of course, just trying to piece everything together at the start, because there was a lot of things at the end of the campaign that reflected on events before the game happened or the very start of the game, and again, trying to piece everything together can be a little bit difficult. So what I decided to do is put a video together basically going through the entire Halo Infinite storyline from the beginning and of course to the very end, and basically just going through the plot points, the different motivations for the characters, and some of the new factions and things we found along the way as well. So of course guys, I'll do my absolute best to piece everything together for you, and I hope that it does make sense to you as well. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comments down below. Again, I'll do my best to reply to every one of the comments that come on, and of course respond to any of the questions that you might have. But guys, do consider dropping a like if you have enjoyed and you do learn something new, of course, and of course subscribe to the channel. It'd be much appreciated. A lot of fun. Can't wait to get into it. Let's do this. So to begin with, I want to start with some events that happened prior to Halo Infinite, or what we believe to be prior to Halo Infinite. Now, just before the events of Halo Infinite, at a time that's currently unknown, the Banished leader Atriox had actually already met with Cortana to discuss her plan. We believe it was on Zeta Halo at the time, but again, at this time, we're not too certain about that. However, Cortana issues warning to Atriox about the consequences of defiance against her plans. After learning about the Mantle of Responsibility, Cortana wants to enforce this on the universe, and anyone that doesn't wish to follow her will suffer those consequences. In the end, Cortana gives Atriox and the Banished an ultimatum. Do you understand the consequences of defiance? You either join me in my plans or suffer those consequences. Atriox then responds, do you understand the consequences of defiance, Cortana? Which will be an interesting point to revisit a bit later on into the video, so make sure you stick around for that. Of course, Atriox chose the Banished and not to follow in Cortana's vision. Of course, Atriox is the leader of the Banished. He will not disband his group. Cortana then shows Atriox a hologram of his home world named Doisat, surrounded by guardians ready to fire and destroy it. Even then, Atriox was adamant that he will not follow Cortana's vision, and she proceeds to destroy the Banished home world, Doisat, right in front of Atriox's eyes. This was not something the Banished dwelled on at the time, and was used as a motivation for Atriox and the Banished to take over the Zeta Halo ring in order to control the most powerful weapon in the universe, a Halo ring. And if the Halo ring was fired, it will wipe out all sentient life within its blast radius. With the Banished home planet now completely destroyed at this point, Atriox and the Banished have nothing else to lose. If they fire the Halo ring, it doesn't really matter to them. Their home is completely gone already. But all of the other species in the galaxy, it could be detrimental to their existence. And of course, with Cortana destroying their planet and right in front of his eyes, it's given them the power to want to threaten the galaxy with this ring and use it against everyone else, so that they know that the Banished are the most powerful faction in the galaxy, because of course, they have the power to fire this ring at any point of time. A short time later, at the beginning of Halo Infinite, the UNSC Infinity, the Master Chief, and the crew identified that Cortana was on Zeta Halo at the time, controlling the ring and taking it as her own. Of course, after receiving this information, the Infinity slipspace portal to the ring in order to try and lock Cortana down and decommission her for once and for all. The weapon, known as the Master Chief's new AI in the campaign, was also on board the Infinity at the time. The weapon is a construct created by Dr. Catherine Halsey to track down Cortana, contain her, and lock her down for retrieval. Of course, once this mission is complete, the Chief will take Cortana back to the Infinity to get her ready for deletion, or the process called Final Dispensation. Now, the weapon is essentially a carbon copy of Cortana. However, once her task is complete and she has locked down Cortana, she will also follow a very similar process, and her AI will be deleted. As of course, she had fulfilled her purpose. She had locked down and contained Cortana. That point there is very, very interesting and very, very important to later on into the video, so make sure that is something you remember. However, once the Infinity arrived at the Zeta Halo ring, its presence was immediately known by the Banished, who had already found Zeta Halo. It took the Banished approximately 4 minutes to infiltrate and take over the UNSC Infinity, UNSC's largest and most powerful naval ship in UNSC existence. The Chief was sent down to the boarding dock by Captain Lasky on the UNSC Infinity to eliminate the Banished that had infiltrated the ship. What the Chief didn't know was that he would not only just be fighting the Banished, but also encounter the leader of the Banished, Atriox. The two soldiers were going at it in a fight against one another. However, Atriox hits the Chief with a fatal blow to his modified gravity hammer. Atriox gets the better of Chief in this fight, introduces himself with his brutish hands around his neck, and throws him into the void. From this point onwards, the Chief was floating in space for around 6 months, with his suit power cells completely fried, and his suit also in survival mode. Within this long 6-month period, the Master Chief was nowhere to be found and was considered MIA. The UNSC and the Banished were at constant war, and Zeta Halo was of course the best option for both factions to land and regroup. The Spartans aboard the UNSC Infinity took the AI, the weapon, down to Zeta Halo whilst the Chief was MIA in order to of course complete the mission and track down Cortana. However, oblivious to the ongoing attack of the UNSC Infinity, Cortana knew that the UNSC would send the Master Chief to Zeta Halo in order to attempt to lock her down, and she was expecting him to be there and to show up.
I've been waiting for you to show up. What's the plan? Take me back to the Infinity for deletion? Halsey's gonna love that.
The UNSC is gone.
Atriox, how did you...
It's time to discuss the terms of your surrender.
However, of course, unexpectedly, after speaking to who she thought was the Master Chief in a sarcastic and witty tone, it was actually Atriox who faced her within the Zeta Halo's conservatory, not expecting it at all. Cortana was perplexed and startled by Atriox, not expecting him to be there at the time. Atriox was there to discuss one thing and one thing only, and that was Cortana's surrender. At this point, the Banished had completely taken over Zeta Halo, meaning that they were in complete control of the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. If this ring was to be fired, it would kill all sentient life within its blast radius. Now, of course, revisiting a point previously spoken about in this video, this was all Cortana's doing, and she even blamed herself for this, for being so naive to the situation at hand.
How could I have been so stupid? Halsey made a copy. It was the only way. There's not much time. If Atriox takes control, he has the ring. A weapon pointed into the universe. Nothing left to lose. My fault. My stupid fault. Not much time. Will this work? There's a moment. John will make it work. He needs help. Of course. Was this your plan all along, Halsey? Or is it mine? It doesn't matter now. Nothing else matters. This has got to work. He can't do it on his own. He needs me. He needs her.
Now that the Banished home planet was completely destroyed, what did the Banished really have to lose in this situation? This is why their motives are so strong in the story. Cortana's own needs and desires to control the universe had got the better of her in this situation, and the consequences of her actions didn't really faze her at the time. Atriox has a motive to make the Banished the most powerful faction in the galaxy, and by taking over this ring, this is the first step in his plan. And throughout the story, we always hear Escharum speak of Atriox's vision or plan, and that's what they want to continue because, of course, it's mentioned in the story that Atriox has died. Again, we don't really know how that happened in the campaign, but yes, again, it's a very interesting thing to take into account. Cortana did not expect Atriox to be the one to find her, and was always suggesting to Atriox that the Chief would not be that far behind. However, shortly after, Atriox reveals the Master Chief floating in space, and much to Cortana's surprise, Atriox shows Cortana the Master Chief floating in space through a hologram, making her believe that he was dead. At this point, Cortana is absolutely perplexed and doesn't know what to do. This was not a part of her plan, and again, as a result of her own actions, another part of her plan has fallen through. Of course, she wanted the Master Chief to find her. She was there on purpose. It was her plan for the Chief to try and come and capture her, and then of course they have their little talk and whatever that needs to happen there, but of course, it didn't work out that way. Again, very similar to a quote that we had already spoken about previously in this video, Atriox responds to Cortana's perplexment and mentions that, reflect on your choices, Cortana. Understand the consequences, mocking her almost for her earlier actions for destroying the Banished homeworld. Atriox has essentially destroyed her pride and joy, the Master Chief, John Spartan 117, very similar to what Cortana did to the Banished. They've destroyed their homeworld, and now the feeling is almost mutual. Atriox wanted Cortana to surrender the ring to him and the Banished. The ring intrigued Atriox. It was different to the rest of them. It holds secrets within that he will find out about, and he will set free. Now, at this point in the story, it became apparent why Dr. Catherine Halsey created the weapon, or the Master Chief's new AI, and what her potential plan was all along. The weapon wasn't just created to lock down Cortana. It was created as an exact copy of Cortana, to an absolute T. From Cortana's routines and systems, the weapons were identical. However, when going through the creation process, Dr. Catherine Halsey removed any information that could have compromised her, resulting in the same path which Cortana had chosen. So I suppose you could say that the weapon was a more stable version of Cortana. The weapon is Cortana if the Chief and her had never met before. It was a fresh start. The best way to describe it is, in Halo Combat Evolved, Cortana and the Chief were first introduced on the Pillar of Autumn to one another. Of course, both knowing who each other are, but knowing very little about each other. Along the way, they learn new things about one another, the world around them, the architecture surrounding them of course, whether that be Forerunner, Banished, UNSC or Covenant. Cortana becomes content that the weapon will become the Master Chief's new companion throughout his journey, and essentially accepted that those two could never be the same again, or never go back to the way that it was. We then witness a further meeting between Cortana and Atriox, and Cortana asks the question,
If you knew how you were going to die, how would you live your life differently?
I would change nothing.
Perfect. Thank you.
What are you doing?
Making things right.
She then proceeds to destroy part of the Zeta Halo ring and do as she quoted, putting things right. The Banished still had full control over Zeta Halo at this point. However, with Cortana destroying part of the ring, it sets Atriox's and the Banished's plans back significantly. The Banished are now unable to fire the ring because, of course, it's partially destroyed. Cortana sacrificed herself to destroy the Zeta Halo ring, which in turn as well prevented the deletion of the weapon, or the Chief's new AI, so that the weapon and the Chief could continue on together and form a brand new partnership. To go into this in more detail, of course, I'm going to make a separate video on this because there's a lot to do with this, and I think that it does deserve its own video to discuss and to go into detail with it as well. So again, stick around for another channel if you want to find out more about that. Banished need to find a way to repair the ring. Therefore, they enlisted a new character into the story named the Harbinger into their forces to assist with the rebuilding or the reformation of the ring. However, it was known in the story a little bit later on that when we did meet the Harbinger, there were some secrets that lay within the ring in a containment chamber deep within Zeta Halo. They're referred to as the Endless. Now, just to give you guys a bit of background on what the Endless are and their essential bio or description around what they are at the moment and what we know so far. The Endless originated in an unknown location at an unknown point of time. Once the Halo rings were fired a long time before this point, they somehow survived with great confusion. Just to reiterate on this point as well, that when a Halo ring fires, it should wipe out everything. Nothing should survive. So the fact that the Endless survived this is really confusing to everyone at this point. At some point of time, they were deemed a threat by the Forerunners and imprisoned on Installation 07 for unknown reasons, in order to be forgotten by time and to not let time become a construct that they would control, with the ring's monitor, Despondent Prior, being charged to watch over their imprisonment. They were considered such a threat that Offensive Bias, who was initially enlisted onto Installation 07 to capture and retrieve Mendicant Bias for final dispensation, very similar to the story of Cortana and the weapon, would be deployed against them should they ever be freed. So in that situation, we know that they really do mean business. And of course, not to mention that throughout the entire story, we've been hinted that these guys are worse than the Flood, so of course that doesn't sound good at all. There were multiple audio logs which also detailed the new council on the planet, potentially Maythrillian, discussing the Endless with Despondent Prior, exclaiming that they must be contained at all costs. Throughout some of the campaign missions, there are actually some banished audio logs which contain dialogue from Despondent Prior, going into something called Xalanyn. Now, I don't know if this is a new faction, I don't know what Xalanyn is exactly, but I want to play all four of them right now for you guys to decipher for yourself, and I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments.
The Flood are ended. The reintroduction phase has begun. Countless preserved species have been
Oh.
Something has been found. Something that should not exist, yet does.
Ooh.
I believed that the flood represented our ultimate test. Our greatest victory. Perhaps I was wrong in my assumptions.
Ooh.
To my dismay, it seems we have a new problem. I must investigate more before I bring this to the attention of the Council. How could this have happened? How could we not know of this till now? Xalanyn, a species previously uncatalogued.
Xalanyn.
Xalanyn, a problem that must be solved. Did my makers know of them? How could they have kept this from me? I have requested counsel. Soon, I will know how to proceed. There is to be a parley. A meeting. Highly unusual. I have moved Installation 07 into sufficient range of their homeworld. Delegates are en route. From both sides. A necessary contingency, considering these unique circumstances. The Council has also provided me with an additional and curious directive. We must understand the extent of what their kind can truly endure. There are facilities on this ring quite ideal for conducting such tests. It is time for the silent auditorium to serve purpose once more.
Palace of Pain. Now, I want you guys to wait till the end of the video for this because, again, the legendary ending really does add on to this, and it's just absolutely epic. So, make sure you guys stick around for that, or, again, go in the timestamps down below and just skip to the point if you wanted to listen to that. But, again, I would suggest listening to the rest of the story, and then, of course, watching that towards the end. We now have context behind, again, some of the dialogue within the campaign when we first meet the Harbinger. She doesn't really agree with the containment of the Endless, and she's trying to find their location on Zeta Halo so that, of course, they can rise again. This was also referred to at the very end of the campaign, where they mentioned that they will rise again, but of course, that's something we'll come on to in just a moment. This was also a goal of the Banished, as presumably the Harbinger has taught them into the same goal as her, to free the Endless. The reformation of the Halo ring begins. Not only will this allow the Banished to have access to firing the ring at any time, but of course, it will also free the Endless from imprisonment. We also go on to learn another potential faction from one of the audio logs from Despondent Prior, named Xalanyn, a species previously uncatalogued. Is this the species of the Harbinger? Again, we don't really know at this point, but if it's not, we could have a second unknown species or faction on our hands here, which again is really exciting and really interesting as well. Again, moving on to the story a little bit as well, the Master Chief does end up defeating Escharum along with, of course, all the Spartan killers that Escharum is sending his way, and of course learns that the Harbinger is trying to free the Endless, which is not good at all. The Master Chief then goes on to stop the Harbinger from opening the seal, as it's referenced to in the game, and releasing the Endless onto Zeta Halo. Once the Harbinger is defeated, it looks as though she's talking to something, but the weapon wasn't able to identify where the signal was coming from or what it was that she was talking to, due to it being really, really old. Could she be communicating with Mendicant Bias? Could it be the grave mine stuck beneath Zeta Halo, which has gone unknown to us? Or could it be something worse? Again, we don't know at this point, but it could be some really cool mysteries around Zeta Halo that may point towards this information and give us some hints around it. So, again, if anyone has these suggestions, drop them in the comments below. And following on from this as well, one of the main questions at the end of the campaign that was asked by the weapon, and definitely one that has us and myself really curious about.
This ring is different than the others.
The Banished and the Harbinger were looking for something that was never found. Why would the Forerunners hide something and throw away the key? Doesn't that scare you?
No. You?
Of course not.
Again, maybe that's something that's pointing towards another Halo DLC or an Infinite Campaign DLC, which I think could be really, really interesting. Again, maybe we'll learn something more from maybe the new council or a meeting with Despondent Prior and the new council on the planet Maethrillium, which may give us some more insight and details as to why the Endless are so bad, what they've potentially done, and why they've been locked away for so long. Again, with them surviving a Halo ring, I presume that this would mean that they are literally invincible at the time, or they can't be killed with a blast from the Halo ring, so what can kill them? So maybe that's the reason why the Forerunners think that they're such a threat. Again, we don't really know at this point, but it's interesting to maybe theorize about it and to discuss it in a bit more detail. But any theories that you guys might have down below, I'd love to hear them. I love this sort of stuff. So drop all your comments down below with everything you think, maybe any theories about it, or anything where you think that this might, I don't know. I really don't know at this point. It's just a really cool discussion point. So yeah, drop them in the comments down below. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Drop a like if you have. It would be much appreciated if you could leave a like. Also, and again, if you're brand new around here and you enjoyed this type of video, or you want to see more, definitely do consider dropping a subscribe on the channel as well. That'd be much appreciated. But yeah, guys, have a great rest of your day. See you all in the next one.